Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sharon Regev, and I am the director of the Department for World Religions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It is my great honor and my great pleasure to start this closing session of our historic summit. So here we begin. I would like first to introduce to you Gilad Atlasevich, that just entered the hall. Gilad works in my department. Psalm 48, 12 to 13, mandates a believer in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to come to Jerusalem for the purpose of reporting his or her experience for future generations. Let me read you. Walk about Zion, go around her, count her towers, consider well her ramparts, view her citadels, that you may tell of them to the next generations. This first of its kind, historic Christian Media Summit was a platform for you, Christian media professionals, lovers of Zion, to come, see Zion, and explore her beautiful complexity. It has provided us with the opportunity to inform the world in the present moment about her true story, a story that will be a record for future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, as this is our closing session, I would very much like to open the floor and to ask for your advice, for your tips, for your ideas, how we go forward from here. To learn from you, how can we better cooperate in order to tell her true story? I would like to introduce to you Ruth Isaac from the European Coalition for Israel, with whom I work on a regular basis. Ruth, can you share with us some of your insights? Please.
Okay. It is an honor to be here with you. You are my brothers, you are my sisters, and you are my fellow human being who understands the importance of Israel. Israel stands like a light in the midst of a lot of darkness here in this region. And I feel that we are strategic. We need to tell a story that maybe has not been told before. What I usually tell Christians, I work for the European Coalition for Israel. If you don't know our organization, please look us up. We are Christians, and basically we have the mandate that we have is three things: pray, educate, advocate. A lot of Christians understand that you just need to pray for Jerusalem. This is what the Bible says. Some other pastors, they go also the next step and actually educate their constituency, the members of their church. But even that is not enough, because education alone is not enough. You need to give them the tools or what they need to do next. And we tell Christians that basically just waving Israeli flags or eating Israeli food, wonderful, but is not enough. Unless your political representatives know that this is what you care about, they're not going to take any action about that. A lot of European nations, but nations around the world, they are sending money to the Palestinian Authority, which is actually being used in the end towards terrorism. If somebody has a responsibility, my director, Thomas Santo, which obviously some of you might know him, and I personally am indebted to him for giving me this position. He says that we the Europeans, we have a historical responsibility, not only because of the Holocaust, and not only because we promised never again, but if somebody has to, somebody that has lived with the Jewish people for thousands of years is us. And we have a responsibility to tell their story and to be a witness that they are coexisting. They lived for 2,000 years or more in Europe. We didn't see any terrorist attacks from them. Is that true? You know, I think I don't need to demonize other communities who do it, but I'm just saying that they are law-abiding citizens. And now there's a very deliberate and very hypocritical and very well-coordinated campaign that is there to smear, obviously, the Jewish people and the state of Israel. We don't make any distinction between the Jewish people and Israel. They're both the same thing to us. Israel is the collective Jew, and individual Jewish people, they are just as human as all of us. And so in the advocate department, we are inside the European Parliament. I'm the Brussels representative, so I'm inside the European Parliament. But we want to encourage Christians around the world to do the same thing in their own countries. Obviously in America, thank God, you do have that vision and you are doing wonderfully. But other nations maybe that don't have, or other pastors, other ministries that don't have that vision, we want to encourage you and to encourage your own audience to do so. The Parliament is where we need to be. We are the salt of this earth, and we are the light of this earth. And our scripture says that we should not hide the light. We should not put it under the table. So that was that. The second thing I want to, in terms of feedback, and Sharon, thank you so much. I want to talk about the Christian Israeli community. There is a Christian minority here in Israel which is thriving, really thriving. If you consider the persecution that Christians are going through inside this region, basically. My understanding is that the Christians in the Middle East, they are diminishing. In the beginning of the 20th century, there was something like almost 20% of Middle East were Christians, and now they're down to something like 4%. That is my understanding. Obviously, it's very difficult to get the exact number, but more or less. The only place that the Christian community is going forward is in Israel. And we need to reach that community. And a lot of them unfortunately, have been influenced by the Palestinian propaganda. And a lot of them identify themselves with the Palestinian cause, basically. And if somebody is a key to reaching them, is us. I have already given that feedback to the organizers that maybe next year they should involve the Christian community, the Israeli Christian community. But also we, throughout the year, we should be doing something to reach them. We need to explain to them what is our background, how did we become involved with Israel, how come other people from around the world, how come we have somebody here from Korea that he is pro-Israel, and that you actually live in Israel, you don't feel that this is a blessing, basically. So this is a project that we are working on at the moment, and I welcome you, as I said, to just maybe join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Ruth, you mentioned the organizations, Christian organizations that work for Israel throughout the world, and we have beautiful representations of some of them here in this hall. Of course, we have David Parsons from the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem. Thank you, David, for all your help and all your support in this conference. We have Malcolm Lowe and Petra Held, with whom we work closely. And of course, Becky Bremer from Bridges of Peace. Becky, would you like to say a few words about the conference, about your work? Please. יש לנו מיקרופון שאפשר יהיה לתת למי שרוצה לדבר?
I was 16 years old when I saw my first movies of the Holocaust. And I was shocked. I was horrified. I went to my father and I said, how is it possible that this could have happened in our day and age to people of the book, people of the Bible? And I said, like every teenager, I thought I could change the world. I said, I would have done something. I would have saved lives. Well, you know what? Fast forward. I wasn't there. I'm now 61 years old, and I'm doing something to change the future. And this is a message that I want to give to all Christians, that we can change the relationship between Christians and Jews. And it's our responsibility as Christians. And at Bridges for Peace, we're trying to strengthen the relationships between the Christian and Jewish world, helping Christians all over the world realize that the greatest benefit to our faith came through the hands and the hearts of the Jewish people. That everything that we hold dear to our faith came from a Bible that was written by Jewish people. That everything that we love and treasure came from this place. As Christians, we have wanted the benefits of the God of Israel. But often, we've wanted to ignore the fact that there is an Israel of God. And they go hand in hand. And this is the truth that has been emblazoned into my heart, that if we really love the God of Israel, then we need to learn to love his family. So I am thrilled to be part of this kind of an event. I've lived in Israel for 28 years. I've seen a lot of conferences. I've seen a lot of things coming and going. But why do I feel this one is important? And there only may be 130 or 140 people here. But every one of you is a person of influence. Every single one of you can make a difference for the future. Let's be future changers. We don't have to be doomed to go around the cycle of Jewish-Christian hatred in the future. And this cycle has repeated itself for almost 2,000 years, where over and over again, Christian anti-Semitism has risen up and has deeply wounded the Jewish people. So my call to us as Christians is to be bigger than that and to change the future, to break that cycle. Now at Bridges for Peace, we do a lot of educational information work to the Christian world, and if there's any way that we can help you, we're happy to do so. If you want my card, come and get it. But then we also give Christians the opportunity to give back, to make relationships, to fund projects in Israel. All with the idea of saying there are Christians around the world who care about you. And not only that, they'll stand with you, they'll help your needy, they'll help your immigrants come home, and no matter what, Israel, you are never going to be alone again.
Thank you, Becky. I would like to say that in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we work very, very close with the Christian Friends of Israel. And we're on a regular basis calling you, asking for your advice when an upcoming Kairos document is going to be published. We will ask for your advice. We gather the different organizations for briefings on a regular basis. And I want to encourage all of you who do not live here in Israel or do not have representatives here in Israel to be in touch with our embassies and consulates around the world. I met Mr. Johnny Kim of Korea. I had the pleasure of meeting you. When was it? It was like 3 years ago at the NRB conference. And this was really a memorable moment. And Dr. Kim told me about his work with the Israeli embassy in Seoul. I would like to ask you to come here and let us know a little bit about the Christian Global Network and about your cooperation with the Israeli embassy in Korea.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Toda Rabba, for this privilege to speak before you. First of all, I give thanks to God Almighty. Let me say in Hebrew, Baruch Hashem. And also, amen. Let's give thanks to Him. And also, Israeli government, including GPO. Thank you, Director Chan, and also Ministry of Foreign Affairs, specifically Department of Religious Affairs. Thank you very much, Director Sharon, for this wonderful, precious opportunity to come and to understand each other more. And I'd like to also thank you all, the fellow Christian broadcasters from all over the world, to stand together for Israel and to pray for Israel and to express love of our Jesus to the people here in the Holy Land. And GCN, Global Christian Network, is a 24/7 evangelical Christian channel and production. We broadcast based in South Korea, but all over the world through all kinds of outlets, platform, satellites, cable, and the internet, IPTV, and even mobile phone. And when we have some live broadcasting, we use 8 different simultaneous interpreters to the whole world. And as I mentioned this morning, we have a plan, not only pray for Israel, we have been praying continually, and we will not only pray, but also every year we come here to show our interest and our love and our concern in this land, and to have a friendship with the people here in Israel. And specifically next year, we are invited to come with our groups, specifically dancers and performers from Korea, to celebrate 70th anniversary of the State of Israel. Amen. And this great event will be broadcast live to the whole world. We have had a experience in 2009 at Binyane Huma with the full support of the municipality of Jerusalem and the Ministry of Tourism at that time to have a great conference which was broadcast live to the whole world. At that time, Reverend Dr. Jerok Lee, the founder of GCN, Global Christian Network, very clearly proclaimed to the whole world with a vivid television camera. At that time, the situation was not so good, 2009. Brothers and sisters in all over the world, please come and visit the Holy Land. It's very safe. So it was a great advertisement and promotion for the tourism in Holy Land. And at that time, General Director of the Ministry of Tourism was sitting behind, and he was so glad. And I appreciate this great initiative for the first time ever in this Holy Land to invite Christian broadcasters from different parts of the world to mutually understand each other more deeply. Based upon this momentum, I'd like to encourage you to keep going, to let the people know more about this great opportunity and great initiative, so that we have a potential, as a media, to reach lots of audience and viewers. So I'd like to encourage you to use NRB, for example, National Religious Broadcasters Convention next year. We've been continually visiting there for the last 17 years, and we have a great booth. And I'm serving now as the member of the President's Council. So take this opportunity, like NRB convention, to let the Christian broadcasters know more about this great initiative. And we do our best from our side. And also, we'd like to keep praying for Israel and showing and expressing our love toward you. Thank you very much. Toda rabba. Thank you very much.
And now I would like to open it up and ask you if anyone has any comments, ideas. Yes, please.
I wanted to refer to a question you, Nitzan, asked us. How can we, GPO, help you to defend Israel? As you said, this is a war on the front line of information, of media. And I'm from the Netherlands, and we are very practical people. So we do things sometimes before we pray. But we also have to deal with lies. Remember the disaster with the MH17, the passenger aircraft that was shot down over Ukraine? From that very moment on, Russia has lied at every single moment it came into the news about the circumstances and how that happened. And they have a special production company who make up fake stories and put them into the air. We call it the echo pit. They start in local media, and when the story seems to look a little bit plausible, they put another extra in it, and in the end it's mature enough to send it out in the West. So we follow the echo pit if a story is coming up, so you can prepare in advance already. But also the European Union has declared that there is a hybrid warfare of Russia against the European Union, its democratic institutions, its member states, and their democratic institutions. Well, that is quite a statement. But there's also something else they did. All the media in all the different countries, in all the different languages, have to deal with these fake stories. So if there are elections coming up in France, you get an RT, Россия сегодня, Russia Today, in France. There is one in United Kingdom, there is one in Germany, there is one in Italy. When the referendum came up, you got in RT Italy. And these are to spread these stories. So everybody individually tries to counter that. But now the European Union has set up what they call, and forgive me the long name, because that's the European Union, that's the bureaucracy. Listen, European Union, External Action Service, East Stratcom Task Force. That's a name, and they have 10 to 12 people. What they do is gather all these fake stories from all the member states, put them together, and together debunk them. There are 400 plus journalists participating in identifying lies, trying to find counter-evidence, mentioning that to each other. So this is not only these 10 people from the European Union, this is over 400 people working together throughout the European Union in countering lies. That might be an idea. You wanted to know what can we do? Well, if you would set up, either within GPO or outside the Israeli government, you already have organizations like PAL Watch, Memory, UN Watch, etc., etc. All these kind of individual information couldn't be put together in, like the European Union, this task force does, in a weekly bulletin, like, hey, this is popping up there, that's popping up there. You can look there, there's an English translation. There you can find the original. So it's not their large story, but you get all the links. So you know what's going on, and that's how we warn each other. An idea.
Thank you very much. As you have mentioned, there are indeed several non-governmental organizations that are doing that, and I think that the information, fully understand. I would like to call Mr. Tudor from Romania, please.
Only a few words, and thanks, first of all, for the opportunity to be here. So we have, as a media, we are running a TV network 24 hours, 7 days a week on satellite in Romanian language over Europe. But our responsibility, of course, as a media group, is to bring the Judeo-Christian value in our nations. This is a primary duty for us as a Christian media groups. And we have to do and to continue to do this. But again, this summit gave us more responsibility to bring God's plan for Israel in our nations. I think this is, I feel more responsibility now. We know for 10 years we fight against replacement theology with all the method, with all the media researches that we have. But now I think it's more important. Many things happened in the last 1 year, 2 years. We feel the time is accelerating, and I want to give, not only to understand this responsibility in my place, for Romania, for my country, but I think for all our nations. This is a huge responsibility now. The time is very short. The return of my Messiah is close, is very close, and we have this huge responsibility, yes, to bring the gospel to our nations, but also to share the God's plan for Israel and to protect Israel and to speak good things about Israel. Thank you once again for letting us to be here.
Unfortunately, our time is quite limited, so we'll have a chance to hear one or two more speakers. I would like to call upon Mr. Hugh Kitson from the United Kingdom.
The President mentioned when we were with him that in a few days' time, a couple of weeks' time, we're going to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. And in a sense, it's almost like the birth certificate of the modern state of Israel. We've also heard a couple of times a quote from Joseph Goebbels in this room, that if a lie is repeated often enough, the people will believe it, and it becomes self-evident truth. And we're in the process of releasing a documentary film called Whose Land? And its aim is to set the record straight. And it's actually hosted by somebody who many of you might have heard of. He's a former British Army officer called Richard Kemp, Colonel Richard Kemp. And we're just about to release this in the UK. We released it in Australia a couple of months ago, and we had really an incredible reaction to it. A couple of the speakers who've been here in the last few days are in the second part of it. This is the first part of a two-part documentary series, and it's called, subtitled Foundations. The next part, which is well advanced now, is called Two-State Solution ? And a couple of the speakers we've had here, Eugene Kontorovich and Itamar Marcus, take a substantial part in it. But if you go to the website whoseland.tv, you can get a little bit more information about it. But it's to set the record straight. And it looks at the legitimacy of Israel in international law. Now, you may be interested to know, contrary to what you hear in most of the secular media, and by the way, this is aimed at a secular audience rather than a Christian audience, you hear that Israel is illegitimate. Well, actually, Israel probably has more legitimacy in international law than any other nation on the face of the earth. And it's almost as if, and we don't say this in the film because it's aimed at a secular audience, God enshrined the title deed that he gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob 4,000 years ago into international law in the modern era. And that happened at San Remo in 1920. And what San Remo did was raise the Balfour Declaration, which was nothing more than a letter of intent in legal terms to the status of an international treaty, which is today still binding under international law, certainly in terms of the rights that the Jewish people were given.
Last but definitely not least, from the Czech Republic, please join us.
Thank you very much. Most of you don't know me. I'm really an outsider. I'm from a small country, Czech Republic, and this morning, you asked for suggestions and observations. As an outsider, I have a unique perspective. And what caught me interest, a morning theme that everybody was saying was the small coin, was Gideon, the small numbers, was David. And what I would like to ask is that the small is not ignored. The small organizations, because what we see here, I'm like the only one that is a small organization. Everything is big here. Not everything big is necessary the good as we know from the Bible. And God uses the small. As me coming from Czech Republic, many Jewish people will know this, most of the Western world probably not. God used Czech Republic, a secular nation, to help establish the modern day of Israel in 1948 by supplying weapons, pilots, and also soldiers that were actually active military, were Jewish, they were allowed to come and fight. So I would ask, like with the visas, I mean not the visas, with the press cards, not just to go by quantity and the size, but more by the quality. Because there's many people like me that we self-fund, we sacrifice our time and our money, and the only thing that drives us is the passion and the love for the Jewish people and for Israel and for our common God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so it's very easy when you grow so big for the American media to be in a bubble and ignore the grassroots and treat the media as a business. A lot of times they forget that it's a mission and not everything is about money. Czech Republic, God, me and my wife not abandoned, but we left America to go to Czech Republic because God called us there, because he has a heart, because he's faithful and he hasn't forgotten that the Czechoslovakia answered the call. Nobody is there. They're starving for the gospel. They're starving, and they're very friendly, even that they're secular, they're very friendly to Israel. It's very amazing that it's not based on faith, but just by knowledge, knowing. And so just ask people to just keep that in mind. Don't ignore the grassroots. Without that, you cannot do it, and it's a very honorable goal, and I hope for greater success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and for sure here in Israel, a country that is the size of New Jersey, size does not matter. I know, of course. No. Look, you will come up because I have been asked by Catherine. I'm sorry, look. I've been asked by Catherine. She asked me so nicely. I could not refuse. So we will take a few more minutes with your permission. Please, yes. Catherine will be first and then look.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm from Christian Broadcasting Network Asia. And I just like to cite the fact that our founder, Pat Robertson, in 1967, at the Six-Day War, declared the Mount of Olives at the same time that the CBN Foundation was being laid in Virginia, that no matter what happens, whether it's unpopular, I and the ministries under me will always stand with Israel. And the tradition has continued on, even with us, CBN Asia in the Philippines. We are the firstborn of CBN in the US. I'd just like to announce and let you know that in spite of us being a broadcasting company, we're bringing a pilgrimage tour group here in Israel. We're organizing one, and we're coming back next month, precisely because we want to celebrate November 29, 1949, or rather 1947, which we believe is the actual rebirth date of Israel, when the United Nations voted in favor of the partition, thus creating the State of Israel. And as Filipinos, we provided some kind of a crucial vote for that. And as Filipinos, we're coming here, all 70 of us on the 70th rebirth of Israel, will come here to pray and make proclamations to continue with the tradition of standing with the State of Israel as Filipinos. Now, I am here because I also shot we, together with my team, we're producing a 5-day TV series on Israel and in Israel and about Israel. This will air in December. And we're fortunate that it was timed with the Christian Media Summit. So we said, might as well go now and attend the summit as well. And as we are here, we're listening and hearing all of this wonderful revelation and strengthening of ties between the Christians and the Jews and amongst us, broadcasters and publishers. I believe it's a good time for us too to start sharing perhaps whatever comes out of this conference, reports, video, documentaries, whatever, and which we intend to do, perhaps we can send it back to the GPO for us to have a shared place where we can see all the reports. And I just wanted you to know, and also in working with the Embassy of Israel, I just got an email from Israel's ambassador to the Philippines, Effie Ben Matitiao, asking me for my own narrative about this conference. So I have just become a correspondent of the Embassy of Israel. So we can share back in the Philippines what has happened here. But what I want to challenge us with is more this. I know we're all feeling young in this room, but we're all, I think, more or less 40 years old and above. I want to challenge us to really bring in the next generation into the discussion. During the Jerusalem March, there were some Filipinos that we went to, and there were many young ones who came here for the first time, and they were so excited. And one of them that we interviewed really said, I want to bring this to my generation. Okay, I think that's a huge challenge. Us little mature people, I would call us, get it. You know, we've heard of this and we're open. But the young ones should hear about this. So my challenge is really, even for us, I think, I don't know how many of us are in social media, but I think we should break in, because that is where the discussion is, and that is where the youths are. You know, I mean, we may be on TV or newspaper, but they're not there. Okay, the youths are in social media, so please let us break into social media and reach the young ones. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Catherine, thank you very, very much. And I'm very happy that Ambassador Ben Matitiao called you. I want to say that this amazing conference would not have taken place without the hard work of all of the Israeli missions around the world that have sent us recommendations and lists of suggested attendance for this conference. So just to say thanks to all my colleagues around the world. You have touched upon a very important issue, and that's a great challenge for my department, and this is the issue of the millennials. And I have now the very great honor and pleasure to invite Mr. Luke Moon of the Philos Project, with whom I'm working very close exactly on that challenge. Luke.
I wasn't actually, all I wanted to say was, first of all, it's an awesome conference. Thanks for inviting me and hosting me here. Nope, I'm just going to hold it. We do bring a lot of millennials to Israel. The program that we help fund is called Passages. Last year, we brought 2,500 young college Christian students to Israel. Last year, we brought about 800. So next year, we're going to do like 4,000, 3,000, I don't know, something like that. So we have actually a large cadre of young millennials. They're all Americans, so that's something. But one of the things I think that would be really helpful is, I've met, I think, really not all the 130 people that are here, and that's unfortunate. So I would love to, if there's a place where we can have contact information for all 130 participants. Maybe it's on the Christian Media Summit.co.il website. And also, social media, you have to have hashtags, right? So, next time you have this sign made, have hashtags on it, okay? Stuff like that really helps you a lot. I know, it's CMS. So if you guys do post on this event, on your social media, on your website, tag CMS 2017, right? And then actually when I search for it in Twitter, I'll see it and I'll retweet you, you retweet me. We spread the word. It's viral. It's all that stuff. That's how you do it. It's not that hard. Okay? So God bless you all and thanks.
You always have great ideas. Thank you very much, Luke. And now Stephen Briggs from Hatikva Films. Sorry.
Just hold it. Just very briefly, I know we've all been sitting for a while. What a great few days we've had together. I want to echo what Luke has said, actually. I think the relationship between Israel and the nations is vital, but the relationship between brothers in the Lord and sisters in the Lord is equally as vital. And actually, what we're doing now, I think, would have been wonderful to happen in the first or second day. Because networking between us, and I just want to give two examples, and how many people here have been to ICVM in America or SEVMA, or even know what they are about? SEVMA. So let me just tell you about two other things that have a similar forum. ICVM is the International Christian Visual Media Association that has an annual conference in the States for film producers and broadcasters from all over the world. It is a meeting, a gathering of professionals who have been involved in the industry for a short time or a long time for encouragement and to see what is out there and what's going on. Not everybody who goes to that has an understanding of Israel. There is a European version of it called SEVMA, which is the Christian European Visual Media Association, sevma.com and icvm.com. I have been greatly blessed and encouraged on the few times that I've been there. And one of the things that has been voiced, I don't know if Dolph is still in here, Dolph van der Wecht from Family 7, it has been discussed about having those conferences here in Israel, but cost has always been prohibitive. But wouldn't it be incredible to have all of the broadcasters, all of the publishers here, all of the presenters, producers in the land where they could learn about the history of what they're seeking to communicate effectively? My journey with media began here in 2008 when I was having a cup of tea around a script, and somebody leant over to me and said, "What are you doing when you leave Jerusalem?" And that individual said, "I want you to come and work for me." And that was where my journey with media began, in this city. And so to be back here and seeing this take place is tremendously exciting for me. I think we are on the cusp of something, but the success of it depends upon not only the relationships directly with Israel, but the fact that we're aware of what each other are doing. One of the greatest tragedies in the work that we do is when there are people doing the same project and there's an overlap unnecessarily, or resources are stretched because of the fact that we're not collaborating together. I am a great believer in team and us playing to our strengths. We can't do everything by ourselves. There are strengths and there are weaknesses in this room. And one of the greatest needs within Christendom is for us to recognize our strengths and to lay down that which we are not strong in, because God has gifted each and every one of us differently. Thank him for it. I am so glad that God hasn't called me to be a pastor. So glad. It would drive me up the wall. But he's called me to do other things, and I thank him for that. And when you find your niche in the Lord, there's nothing more refreshing, more exciting. Is it difficult? Yes. Is it painful? Yes. Do you get stabbed in the back? Yes. Does it hurt? Yes. Is it worth it? Yes. Because we serve a God who is bigger than all of that. And as far as I'm concerned, my God was stabbed in the back by one of his best friends. But so within that process, we have to support. Remember, one of the key commandments, this is how you will know, they will know that you know me, by the way that you love one another. And so I want to know all of you. I want to know what you're doing. And so reflect Luke's message to us all, that actually, if you haven't come and said hello to me, come and do so before you leave. Thank you and God bless you.
Again, this is a real blessing for us to have here the conferences that you have mentioned, as well as the NRB, come to Israel and gather here in Jerusalem. I think that would be a wonderful, wonderful initiative. I think it is about time to Malcolm, please come. Malcolm Lowe, please.
Yeah, let's make one very simple point. I think that Israel is very good at supplying information about this event, what's just happened, and so on. When it comes to long-term accusations against Israel, I think Israel largely fails. And these are the things that I've been addressing in the articles I write for Gatestone. Very often in these long-term issues, there's one vital piece of information, one simple piece of information, which completely demolishes the accusation against Israel. What one has to do is to find that piece of information, which is often very well known for years, and to use it. I'll give an example. We had Minister Bennett here this morning, and he said he has two problems. He has a lot of very good things, but anyway, he said we have two problems. The Haredi sector is backward, the Arab sector is backward. I went to him afterwards and said, this is not correct. If you look at the Arab sector and look at Christian Arabs and Muslim Arabs, you will find on every economic indicator the Christian Arabs are higher than the Jewish population. Right? This is the vital piece of information. It shows every time you hear the Arabs are disadvantaged versus the Jews in Israel, this piece of information demolishes the argument. You say the Christians are on a higher level. They have better education results. They have higher household incomes per capita and so on. I'll give a second example, and this is the question of water. And here, I'm afraid, Israel has made a very big mistake. There's this long-term thing about how Israel is stealing Palestinian water and so on and so forth. And the argument always starts by saying, in the Palestinian Authority, they have so and so much water per head, and in Israel, they have so and so much water per head, and even the Israelis are stealing the Palestinian water. Now here, the crucial piece of information, I will come to it, it's a little complicated, but I'll explain to you. The issue of water between the Palestinians and Israel is the following. there is rainfall in this country. A lot of it falls in the mountains, and some of it goes underground and comes up in springs in Israel. This is not unique to Israel. It's all over the world. There are many such cases. And it's internationally, the solution is the receiver returns part of what it receives to the hand. This was addressed in the Oslo Accords. It was written down how much water Israel is to give the Palestinians every year in compensation. Now, what the Israelis, when they always refer to a certain study by a professor at Bar Ilan, and he starts his study by saying, he doesn't, you see, what comes out of this is the following. What is only relevant, the relevant fact, is that Israel has to return a certain proportion of the rainfall, a certain total quantity of water. It doesn't matter whether there are 100 Palestinians or 100 million Palestinians. The figure per capita is irrelevant because it's a question of rainfall, how much comes back. Now, this Israeli professor, which all the Israeli press, they say, read his article. He starts his article, it's about 100 pages or more, which had a lot of very useful information, but he started with saying, yes, there is this claim that the Palestinians are not getting enough water per head. But he said, the Palestinians have given a false figure for their population. They claim to have 4 million Palestinians. Really, there are only 2 million Palestinians, so they're getting twice as much water per head as you think. Now, with this answer, first of all, it's very implausible, and who knows what the population is. But secondly, he's focused on the thing per head. When the crucial fact is, it's not a question of per capita, it's a question of a certain proportion of rainfall. So in this case, the whole water issue, everything comes back year after year and year, and the Israelis themselves, by referring people to an article which doesn't address the issue, but actually confuses people even more. So I can give 3 or 4 more examples, but I've written about them on the Gatestone website, and people can read them there.